Hi, I'm Shayna Fannin, interior designer and advocate for connection, and this is Good by Design, a show about what defines us as an individual and how that influences what we create. Today we welcome #1 New York Times bestselling author and executive coach of the world's most prominent executive teams, Keith Ferrazzi. Hi, Keith. How are you?
Hey, Shanna, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's good to see you too. I know it feels like a lifetime since we saw each other in person.
I know. I miss you
So
out
much
here.
has
It'd be
happened.
great to have you come
I
and visit
know.
again when you're able to.
I am. I'm actually going to come back out in July, so I'll have to let you know when.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit about who you are so that the audience can get to know you.
Maybe just start with today.
Sure.
We have a strong point of view that the collaborative capability of an organization defines its success. And we also believe that most organizations do not effectively get the value out of their people working together.
Yeah.
And so we coach executive teams to be what we call co-elevating, a team that doesn't just collaborate, but it goes higher together, where the team has a commitment to a mission, but it's also got a commitment to each other. My first book, Never Eat Alone, which I'm very well known for in some circles.
Fantastic book.
Thank you. It defined how relationships should be built in a professional context. And then my second book, Who's Got Your Back, really defined how that intimate small support group around you is disproportionately predictive of your success in life. And then my new book, which is my first leadership book, it's called Leading Without Authority. And it's how a team co-elevates with each other to create extraordinary value.
And I think each book kind of builds on the previous one. The thing I really appreciate about your books is that it's actionable. You really create steps and say, this is how you can do it. And I think there's an art to that.
Yeah, so I'm an introvert, and a lot of people don't recognize that. But by being an introvert, where relationships in the charismatic, connected fashion doesn't come naturally to me, it's easier then for me, I think, to dissect that into practices that other people can follow.
And I know that meditation is a really important part of your life.
I think I am less mindful than I am a seeker. I'll explain what I mean by that. I mean, I am still very early on my mindfulness journey. I have done 2 meditative Vipassana sits, which is a 10-day meditation retreat. Anybody who's watching, you can do it, and it's free. It's the person who came before you paid for you. And when you're done, you're offered the opportunity to pay for the next person. But more importantly, if you can't afford it, you don't have to pay. It's beautiful. But it's a beautiful system, and you can find it at Dhamma, DHAMMA.org, Dhamma.org. And it's non-religious based. It's just teaching the practices of meditation.
Yeah.
But I'm a seeker, meaning, with all of the insecurities and fears that I had growing up, coming from a very poor background, but then going to very rich schools, I really had to work hard to not allow the tapes that play in my head. Do I fit in here? Do I belong here? What are they thinking of me? Those kind of questions. And as a result, I'm always looking for paths, always looking for something that's going to take me higher or ground me more. And those things I find in meditation. I read a lot. I love writing. I love seeking new ideas. Anyway, I say that because, yes, I have a meditation room, but you'd think that I meditated, joyfully every day, and I don't.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, spirituality is important to me.
Yeah.
I have an old, antiquated Greek, I believe, cross, biblical cross. I have the word faith here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really see it. So you were a part of my home. I'm curious, what were your reflections on it? I would love to, you've gotten to know me a bit. I mean, I have 3 questions for you. One is, how did your book club respond to the book? #1. #2 was, I would love to hear how they responded to it, not just from a professional standpoint, but I'd love to understand whether they took it into their personal lives at all. And the last question is, what do you think about my home, and how do you feel that knowing me and knowing my home, opposite? You think there are ways where my house could even be more congruent to me?
Yes, I do. Number one, I actually hosted a couple of book clubs. And so as soon as I read your book, I connected with you right away, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I can't wait to share this specifically with this group of people in my life, because this is why we created the group. And they have attached so strongly with it. One woman works in finance and is using that to kind of help her to strategize with relationships, specifically going through COVID. Another came from the real estate world and has started his own coaching business, helping entrepreneurs specifically in the real estate space, but of all different kinds of backgrounds, and is starting to work with some other small companies in their coaching. And he immediately recommended the book to all of the companies that he was, and all of the people in those companies that he was or is working with. And we've continued a dialogue about that. And then there's another woman who's part of the group who's also an interior designer and works mostly doing hospitality design. And she's had some difficulties in relationship with the ownership and understanding her role and understanding what they need to be doing to move forward, technologically and in the advancements of design and all of that. And so she'd already kind of been having some of these conversations facilitated by, us talking about as a group. But when she read the book, it really just pushed things. And I texted you about this when I read part of your book. It really touched me when it talked about co-elevation in our personal life. It's so easy, specifically in our family dynamics, to let stories and the past and natural hierarchy that happens in families and all the junk, because I came from a very poor background myself, one that I suffered abuse and violence. Mm-hmm. And that creates a very dominant environment, a very dominant culture. I've been working, and reading the book kind of move forward this, how do I co-elevate with the members of my immediate family? And then to answer your last question about your house, knowing that you love throwing these, beautiful dinner parties and having this intimate group of people who just really connect with one another, seeing how your space is divided up, I totally understand how it doesn't really work well for all of that. My immediate curiosity went to, how can we connect this dining room area with this living room area, and how do we make this a space where they still are separate, because they're on two different levels, they're still separate, but how do we connect them? Just kind of part of the point of these conversations is to understand, how space affects us. And I think for you right now, your home is not necessarily negatively affecting, but it's not facilitating the highest purpose that you would like that space to facilitate. And so finding a way to connect those spaces would mean moving your half bathroom, by the way, but I'm sure we could figure that out. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Thank you. The world has changed pretty radically in the last 20 years. And yet what I noticed over the last 20 years as I coach executives and teams is that we're clinging to old ways of work that don't really serve us well. Ways of working in silos, feeling that in order to be extraordinary, you have to gain more responsibility, authority, and control. The reality is that letting go of that actually gives you an untethered capacity to be extraordinary and to build extraordinary things with others. And so leading without authority teaches us how to become exponential, how to break the doors off of creating extraordinary things by not staying in boundaries. Relative to how to get a hold of us, I think it varies. It depends on who you are. The best way to get a hold of me is to read my work. So let's start there. And then when you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. So I would say, my books, the pathway of my books, Leading Without Authority, I'm very proud of. And I think it could be my best work.
I think I agree with you. I think it is your best work.
Go on to keithferrazzi.com, go to courses, and you can download the free course for free. Free course for free. I guess it is. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And
yeah, I would love to. Yeah.
Just created. It helps you sort of follow the book, but with a video series. And then beyond that, on all the social media, we have a consulting firm that we come into corporations and do this work, and that's Ferrazzi
Greenlight.
Yeah. But you can find everything through keithferrazzi.com.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate this great conversation, and I can't wait to, come back out to LA.
Truly my pleasure.